26 years ago, Stephen was told that Corey was not his son.
I knew there were some other men in the picture. I did not believe he was mine.
Recently, Corey contacted Stephen with a very different story.
I came across some old court documents that had his name on it.
Today on Trisha. Sitting with me is Stephen. Now, 26 years ago, Stephen met this young man, Corey, when he was just 1 day old. Now, Stephen was dating Corey's mother when she got pregnant, but she told Stephen he was not the father. Well, Stephen walked away, but he always remembered that newborn baby had the exact same pinky toe as he did. Now, just 37 days ago, Stephen received an email from Corey stating, "I think you're my father." Well, since that day, Stephen's life has been turned upside down with the possibility, the hope that Corey could be his only child. Listen to his story.
26 years ago, I dated a girl who had a child, and I did not believe he was mine. And I knew there were some other men in the picture, and I wasn't really sure. I have no children. I drank a lot for a long, long time, and I could barely take care of myself. I didn't have any desire to try and take care of someone else when I did such a poor job of taking care of my own self. The last time I saw Corey was when I went to the hospital when he was 1 day old. It's come to the point where I've been contacted by Corey, who thinks I may be his father. When I saw the email, I was shocked. I responded that I'd often wondered for over 20 years, could he actually be my biological son? Corey and I have never seen each other to this point, nor have we spoken to one another. I believe we both felt, without saying it in the email, that we would want that first conversation between us without the question lingering, is he my son? Is he my father? I absolutely want Corey to be my son. I've often wondered what it'd be like to have a child. And to gain a daughter-in-law and 3 grandchildren, absolutely, what a life-changing adventure that would be.
Now, Corey's backstage right now, and get this, Corey and Stephen both decided never to meet each other, even speak, because both were afraid of getting close and then getting disappointed. So today they're going to meet each other for the very first time. Stephen, when we showed that bit of tape with you talking about your feelings, we put up, there was a picture of Corey involved in that. Had you ever seen that picture before?
No.
Are you scared, nervous?
I'm excited. I think well, apparently I've missed out on raising a child. But
how did that come to be? Take me back to you met his mom?
Yeah, it all started at the drive-thru at a Dairy Queen.
Right.
I was going for a cheeseburger, and I ended up with a girlfriend. I thought she was cute, and
were you her only boyfriend?
Well, I asked her for a phone number and said, "Can I give you a call?" And this is 1988, Dallas, Texas, and she gave me her phone number, and I called, and we started seeing each other.
So when she told you she was pregnant, did you know all that at the time, or?
Honestly, I thought that after we dated for 6 or 8 months, and we started falling apart, and I was kind of like moving on. And when she told me that, I thought it was a lie.
You thought she was lying about being pregnant?
I thought it was like, I'm losing him, I don't want to, I'm going to tell him this, and he'll stay.
Yeah.
And I thought, I'm not going for that. No.
Then her sister contacted you and said what?
We had broken up, and it had been probably 6 months after we broke up, and she said she had the baby, and it would mean the world to her if you would go and visit.
Did she say you were the dad, or just that she had the baby?
No, she said, I don't care whether you think he's your child or not, it would mean the world to Lisa if you would go to the hospital and visit.
So you held the baby?
I didn't stay long, and I said, what a beautiful baby, congratulations. I hugged her and the baby, and but she didn't say anything or elaborate, you know it's your child, or anything of that nature. And
did you notice anything about the child? Were you looking for some of your features in the baby?
He didn't have any little boots or shoes on, and I saw his feet, and there's a weird little quirk with the toes, and I thought, he's got my toes.
But you didn't ask, or you didn't?
No, I just thought, again, I was a drinker, a partier, and I thought, if I convince myself, then I can walk away without the guilt.
And she didn't come up and say, so you could let yourself off the hook?
She did not.
So did you forget about that little baby and just move on?
I've wondered because I've never told anybody about the toe thing. I've never told my mom, my dad, anyone in my entire life.
So when did they find out about this? That you might have a child out there? When did your family find out?
When my mother sent me a thing on Facebook saying, Stephen, There's a Corey who asked me to be his friend on Facebook. That name sounds familiar. Perhaps you can enlighten me.
How long ago was this? Just recently?
2 weeks ago.
How did you feel when you saw that?
Well, I knew Corey and I, again, we haven't spoken, just through first emails, and he said, let me get your phone number. I don't want to talk to you. I think it'd be the weirdest thing that either one of us have done to this point in our lives. But it's easier to text. I went, okay. And he gets all excited, and he's posting things all over Facebook about, hey, you know, I met this guy. I got to know this guy. It might be my real dad. And he sent a friend request to my brother because I accepted his friend request, and it's just has gone mini viral.
So that's good. What I wanted to ask you is, have you looked for him over the years?
I got in some trouble, and I was in jail in Dallas, Texas, a couple of months after he was born for almost a year. And when I got out, I thought, I'm going to look for, and I called the phone number that Lisa's his mother, and it was disconnected.
But what she told you, she gave you the old, what, Smith, Brown, Jones kind of thing?
Well, her name is Lisa.
A lot of them about.
And so I'd gone to, I tried the phone number, disconnected. Her parents' house, that number was disconnected. And I went down to the courthouse, and I thought, well, let's look at the birth records.
What did it say?
Stephen Scott as the father, around the time that he was born. I couldn't remember the exact date.
Yeah.
But I went back a couple of months around before the date, to the date, and a couple of months after the date. And I am not the father of anyone in Dallas, Texas, between those two parameters.
Now, have you gone on to have other children?
No, never.
If Corey is your son, that's your one and only child.
Yes.
So you haven't heard his voice?
Not yet.
You haven't met him? You haven't...
I've seen pictures, you know, Facebook. He'd look at my Facebook, and I'd look at his.
Did you hold that little baby all that time
Momentarily,
ago?
yes.
And what was it like holding that little baby now, looking back?
I felt like a failure. I felt like, wouldn't it be nice to be responsible and know that this is my child and be comfortable in knowing that I could raise him? I just wanted to walk away because I knew better. I couldn't even take care of me. So it was tough.
So let's take a break here.
Okay.
Let me get yourself together, because there are two things to do. Number one, actually meet this young man in person, lay eyes on him, which you've never ever done before, and then find out if that young man is your son.
Okay.
That's pretty scary, I know, so let's give you a couple of moments. Now, before we do that, you said you hadn't heard his voice, so I wanted you to listen to this. This is the first time you're going to be hearing Corey's voice. You ready to hear it?
Yes.
Okay.
For over 26 years, I've always wondered who my real father was, so I'm here today to find out if Stephen is my real dad or not. When I was around 15 or 16, I used all the resources that I had to look for Steve, including the internet, phone books. I just ran into dead ends everywhere I went, so I just gave up. I was cleaning my house one day, going through a bunch of old paperwork, and I came across some old court documents that my grandmother gave me that had his name on it.
I've always tried to help my husband find his father. So when he found the court documents, I did a little research and eventually found him on Facebook. My husband reached out to Stephen, and when Stephen wrote him back, he was very emotional.
I got the email through my phone. After reading the first couple words, I just bursted into tears. I was like happy and excited at the same time that I finally found the guy that matches the description. I do want Stephen to be my real father. From what I know of him, we have a lot of the same characteristics. A unique feature that I have that all three of my kids have is our pinky toes actually curve outwards. When I had mentioned that to Stephen, he told me that his does the exact same thing.
This would definitely mean a lot to my husband. He never really had much of a relationship with his mother, and so to finally have his real father in his life would be a tremendous support and would finally give him some closure.
All right, well, when we come back, Stephen, you're going to see Corey for the very first time and find out if he's the little baby you held all those years ago. Okay? We'll do that. All right, we'll be back after this. Next, are you ready to find out if you are father and son? DNA today on Twitter. Welcome back. Now, I've been talking to Stephen about how many years ago you held that little baby in your arms.
Over 26 years ago.
Over 26 years ago, and the mother of that baby didn't tell you were daddy, and you weren't ready to be daddy.
No,
could have been another 2 guys as well.
Absolutely.
So this whole time you've been wondering, trying to find him, and then just a couple of weeks ago, out of nowhere, you get that contact from this guy who says you may be my dad. Yeah. Now, you've just heard Corey's voice for the very first time. You've never actually met him face to face. This is going to be the very first time you meet him. And then the next step is to have the DNA test and find out if you're father and son. This would be your only son.
Correct.
So, are you ready to meet Corey?
Absolutely.
Yeah?
Can't wait.
You can't wait?
Yes.
All right, so let's meet him. Please welcome Corey.
Look at you.
Look at you.
We look alike.
We do. You have my
Smirk.
yeah. Wow.
Hi, Corey. Wow. Hi. Come over to the sofa. I can get you a tissue.
Oh.
Here, come have a seat. What were you told about your dad? Anything?
My mom had passed away when I was only 5.
Oh, God.
And so my grandparents raised me.
Right.
And so as I got older and started realizing what life was, you know, kids are supposed to be raised by their parents. I was always questioning why is my grandparents raising me? And so I asked my grandparents. I was like, hey, where's my dad? You know, why isn't my dad raising me? Why am I living with y'all? And they said that your dad's not around. And I was like, okay, you know who he is?
Yeah.
And they said a guy named Steven. I said, okay, you got any other information? We just know his name, that's it.
Did you know there were another 2 guys who
I did. Apparently, at the time that I was born, my mom was legally married, but separated. And so she gave me that guy's last name. And that's, after talking with Steven a while back, he didn't know. So he could never find me because he didn't know my last name.
Did you even know that his mom had passed away?
Not till I spoke with him, or
Just
not
a couple
spoke
of
with
weeks
him, but through an email. I asked him in an email, I said, well, how's your mom? How's she doing? Is she still around? He's like, no, she died when I was 5.
Is that doubly painful because you feel maybe you could have had a parent in your life?
Yeah.
How long have you been looking?
Well, after I talked to my grandparents, I pulled the phone book out. And I was like, okay, I'm going to start looking for him, Steven. So I'm flipping through the phone book, calling every Steven in this area. Not one of them was him. And some years later, when I was around 15, 16, internet started getting more popular and stuff, and so...
What was it like sending that email? I think you may be my dad. That must have been scary.
Well, when my wife found him, or his Facebook, and I looked at it, and I noticed that his relatives were in Texas. I'm like, oh wow, okay, we may have gotten somewhere because now we're getting closer to home. And so I said, I'm going to really, really look into his Facebook here and see what I can find out. And so, you know, when I found
but I have to say, I'm looking at the 2 of you. Do you think you look similar?
Yeah.
Did you feel abandoned at all? Or
I did.
You did? But having sent emails back and forth, now you know the bigger picture.
Right. I don't feel that way no more. Like, I had a lot of anger built up thinking that, you know, my mom got pregnant and then he left. But after finding out the truth on his part, when he did everything he could, it wasn't that. And so therefore, all the hate that I had towards him just disappeared. And then I was more happy.
Now, your faces, as I said, there could be some similarity, but it's this pinky toe thing that you saw when he was a little baby. Tell me about... So the pinky toe face is out, and you have the same. And I understand your children have that too.
Yes. all three of them.
So what would it mean for Stephen to be your dad? That's almost a dumb question. I'm sorry I have to ask.
I mean, it would mean a lot. Like, I could actually have some closure of, knowing who my real father was,
And then Stephen suddenly becomes a granddaddy and the whole thing from having no children to having a whole family. So I guess this is the moment. Are you ready to find out if you are father and son? What happens if you're not? I don't know what the results are. Can I ask what happens if you're not?
I mean, I'll be sad because I still won't know. And I just want to know, whether it's him or not. I just want to know. And from talking with him, I mean, all the similarities that we have, I want him to be. He can have his only son that he has. If not, then it sucks for you.
Let's find out. Let's find out. Okay.
Why don't you? Would you mind?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. I knew you looked damned alike. There's a young lady you might like to meet. Would you like to do the honors?
It's my love, Lord. Your father-in-law.
It's a boy.
And the children are backstage, so somewhere private and quiet. If you want to meet the rest of the family. Yeah. How old are you?
I'm 55.
You're an old codger now. Yeah. Wow.
It doesn't suck for him.
No, it doesn't suck. Do you know, I've opened a lot of envelopes and done a lot of DNA tests, and I've got to say that so far this has been the most meaningful one. It's been a privilege meeting two such beautiful people. I mean that.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you so much.
You can frame that. Have it, frame it. For more information about DNA paternity testing, call 1-800-798-5955. Looking for some excitement in your life? Well, I've got a ticket just for you. Come see The Trisha Show live in Stamford, Connecticut. For free tickets, call 203-905-6555 or go to thetrisha.show.com. DNA drama. He has never been there for me. Today on Trisha. Welcome back. Now, what do you think happened to our guests from today's show after the DNA results were revealed and they went home? Well, as always, we waited right up until this episode would air to get you the most accurate information. So here is today's Trisha Airdate update. From Corey and Stephen say their bond has grown strong very quickly. Both say they can't wait to start visiting each other for holidays and family reunions, just like they've always dreamed of doing. We'll be right back. DNA drama. He has never been there for me. Today on Trisha. I want to thank you for joining me today, and I want to thank our studio audience. They've been great. So take care. I'll see you again soon.
Hey y'all, Corey here with my dad, Steven. This is 10 years later after the show. We actually met in February of 2014. It is now August 2024, so it's about almost 10 and a half years later. And I know at the end of that show, she did a quick air update, and that was only like 2 months or 3 months after the show actually was filmed when it aired. But to have a more accurate and more up-to-date information, now's your chance to hear about that. So we're just going to talk, maybe ask each other questions or whatever, just to give y'all a good update. But I'll start it off with saying that, you know, all kinds of relationships have their ups and downs. We've had ours. I'm not gonna lie. There's been times where we disagreed on things and we've got at each other and did and said some mean things. But you know, when you're in a relationship and you really care about somebody and you love them, you feel like you can kind of get away with being more mean in a way. And I did that a lot. I know that he did that some, and we did have some arguments, but all in all, like overall, I think over the last 10 years, been pretty good. We've had a lot of fun times. He come to visit me when I was living in Arizona before I moved back to Texas. He lives in Georgia. I've been out there here. I'm in Georgia now, you know, visiting him here. But I think all in all, things are going pretty good. We've had lots of good times together, you know, holidays, reunions, Christmases, you know, and another grandkid. I have 4 kids now, so this old Kaja here, he's getting some more no more grandkids though. We're done, you know. We are. But anyway, I mean, how do you think, you know? Well, I know, you know, outside of being negative and talking about, you know, the bad things, but I mean, what's your 10-year update?
Well, you know, like you already mentioned, in any given life, I'm a firm believer that relationship or not, father, son, friend, co-worker, neighbor, it's not all rosy. You know, there's, like you said, ups and downs. So, but we've been able to get on the other side of them, the ones that were negative. So there's been a lot has transpired. Like you mentioned, have a 4th grandchild since we met. We're 3 in the beginning. We went on a program, the Trisha Show. It's where we met. This is kind of a follow-up to that when we met on the show at the DNA results back in 2014. So it's been 10 years plus. Nothing wrong with his math on that one. Anyway, but yeah, a lot has transpired. You know, he's moved a little bit here and there from Arizona to Houston area. We've dealt with some deaths in the family. My sister had died before we met, but my brother has died, and my father has died, and my mother's gone through some quadruple bypass surgery. So, and then I had a grand nephew actually that was murdered last year. So we've gone through a lot of loss, but yeah, in the long run, you know, we've come through the other side. You know, I'm a firm believer that family first. You know, so it's taken sometimes longer, sometimes quickly, sometimes slowly, and sometimes it slowly comes around. But it seems like it always does, because I think that's how God would want us to be. You know, family is family, and if you don't have family, then you know life just kind of becomes a little meaningless. At least in my thoughts, anyway. So things are good today. We're here, and Corey come to visit, and we're hanging out in my dining room. This is the room we've been in this house for a little over 3 years now. Just 3 years. Yeah. 3? Oh, 3 years. It seems like 5, but yeah. This is probably the 4th time I've stepped in here. It's just
once a year.
One of those rooms. You ever go to grandmama's house and we don't go in that room where they got the plastic on the couch, that kind of stuff. This is that room in our house. There's no need for me to be in there. The TV's in the other room, the bed's in the bedroom, of course, the kitchen's over there. But it's where I frequent the most of my time. But overall, it's been pretty good. You know, the grandkids, when I go to visit, you know, they're all climbing all over me, and they've been here to visit. And it's kind of neat, you know, seeing that I've got part in that in their lives, not just biologically, but physically and mentally and spiritually as well. So life's good today.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know what tomorrow brings, but today's a good day, and it's good to be here.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's cool when he comes to visit. You know, it's cool because I get to see Pops, but the kids call him, you know, Papa, because that's what I called my granddad, you know, on my mom's side. And well, the kids get to hang out with Papa, but we also put him to work sometimes too. It's never just a visit, just chill. He comes out and yeah, he does projects with us and for us, and kind of shows me some tricks. You know, he's a maintenance guy, so he's like a jack of all trades, and I think that's where I kind of get it from. I'm not a master at any of them, but I'm okay at all of them, and so I've learned a lot of my man skills, you know, even then from him, which is pretty cool, you know, like installing sinks and just assembling different kind of things and stuff. But going back on the, you know, who we are today and like, you know, how things are. One thing I really struggled with a lot prior to meeting him was my PTSD. That's post-traumatic stress disorder, and I was in a bad spot at the time that we met. And so shortly after, like, things were all, you know, rainbows and unicorns right away. And then dealing with my own issues, I still had a hard time trying to control my own anger and stuff. And so that's why I started slipping of the tongue, and I was saying anything and everything that I could, you know. But over the past 10 years, over the last decade, my own journey has been helpful with repairing relationships. If you remember from the video, my mom passed away when I was 5. You know, God rest her soul. Yesterday it was actually her birthday, and so she would be 61 today in heaven. And so I still, to this day, try to deal with the aftermath of finding her dead. That was really hard as a 5-year-old kid. I'm 36 now. I'll be 37 next month, and I never dealt with that until about 6 years ago, is when I started the healing process of that. But also everything from war. You know, I was in the Army, I went to Iraq, I had some head injuries, I was involved in some combat, and when I got back home in 2008, I didn't know how to handle that. I didn't know what to do with all the crap I had going on. But shortly after, in 2009, I was also in a motorcycle wreck too. And so there was a lot of trauma and road rage with that. And the only thing I knew was anger. And so anger was expressed in any and every situation that I could do. And that definitely crept up a lot with our conversations. And for that, I'm very shameful of, and I regret it, and I feel really bad and guilty. But I didn't want to lose the relationship, so I knew that I needed to do whatever I had to do to repair it. And even if that's just taking the higher road, I would always do that to strive to repair the relationship. That means a lot to me, because like I said, I don't have my mom, and it's good that I have my other parents still in my life, you know, because there's not a lot of them out there where a kid, or even as an adult kid, will have both their parents. So if you do have your parents, man, hug them, tell them you love them, forgive them, you know, if they've done you wrong or whatever, because you don't know when they're going to be gone. You know, it could be 5, it could be 45. It doesn't, you don't know. I'm just very grateful that we have this relationship, that I still have my dad around, and I'm able to spend time with him when we're able to. We are busy. We're both adults. We have our own lives, but when we're able to see each other each year or every other year, whatever that may be, you know, we definitely cherish the time that we have together, which is awesome. But, you know, just I think one big thing moving forward in the last 10 years of my growth, I've gone through post-traumatic growth, that's PTG, overcoming your PTSD. One thing that's really helped out was my relationship with God, and being in church and putting God first and learning how to love others as God has called us to. Love your God with all your heart, mind, and soul, but also the second greatest commandment is to love your neighbor. And that neighbor could be anybody, especially your own family members. You know, treat them how you want to be treated. And that's one thing that I've had to learn to do over the years, especially battling my own anger issues. And forgiveness has been a big one. I know I'm not the perfect person. Nobody is. I mean, Romans 3:23 says, "For no one is righteous. All have fallen short of the glory of God." Well, it doesn't say that first part, but it says that second part. brain injuries. I forget sometimes. But anyway, I've learned to forgive and to just try to calm myself down, control my tongue, and act in love, and just try to be like Jesus and live like him, treat others how Jesus treated them. So anyway, that has been a very big help in my life here lately, and I think that's what's really helped, you know, repair broken relationships and stuff. But anyway, I'm glad we have each other still, and we can just enjoy, you know, the rest of life together.
Well, I'm going to jump in here and say something you mentioned a moment ago about, you know, if you still have both your parents, you never know when they're going to go when you're 5 or 45. So I know you lost your mother when you were 5, but 45 would be like 9 years from now. Are you trying to say that maybe
no,
this guy out of here?
Maybe I should have said 75.
I'm just playing. But anyway, that was just for fun. But what I wanted to say is I'm involved in a program that I've been in for a number of years, almost 2 decades now, and something that I've been able to instill in my life since I've met Corey is that, and some of you who are familiar with the program, and I'm sure there's some that see this video will know when you hear what I'm about to say, is that I am powerless over people, places, and things. And I'm powerless over Corey and how he talks, acts, or reacts, or says, or what he thinks, says, or does, as I am powerless over anybody else besides me. I believe the only power I have, there's 2 things that I have power over. What I say, what comes out of this mouth, I have power over that. And my actions, what I physically do. I'm powerless over what I think, but I'm not powerless over how I react to that. I can react, knee-jerk reaction, which a lot of times, like Corey, I had some anger issues myself, and when I react negatively and in a negative manner. And I'm not proud of that, but it's part of my learning and growing mentally in my own life. So I've learned how to respond. You know, maybe count to 10, take a breath, walk away, step away, just to try and alleviate that. It's usually most of the times when I'm wrong, it's because I reacted on how I felt, and I've learned that sometimes my feelings aren't factual. You know, just because I feel it doesn't mean that that's real.
Right. I don't know if I told you this before, but an old therapist that I used to see told me the difference between a reaction and a response is a breath. So if you can stop in that moment and just woosah yourself for a moment, it'd have a completely different outcome. And I know that if we both would have done that, there would have been a lot of saved arguments. But we've learned that now.
Yeah. Another little trick along the same line is like, if someone came to me and they were having an issue with their son, or I'm having an issue with my father, I respond a certain way because I respond a certain way. But if my best friend came to me with the exact same issue, and I want nothing but the best outcome for my best friend, what would I recommend or suggest that he do? 9 times out of 10, it's not how I'm going to react to my own problem when it's in my life. Yep. So, you know, that's another little life lesson learned, if you will. So, between it's a program I've been a part of, continue to be a part of, and just things we've gone through. There's nothing that, and we've all heard it, there's nothing God will bring to me that he won't bring me through. And so I believe in God and family. And you can't, I don't think you can have one without the other. Yeah. I mean, you can. You can, hard. But it'd be kind of ugly or sad. I guess more sad than ugly, and lonesome, if you will. But having God and having a spiritual life, believing in a power greater than myself, and having family first, you know, it's a big deal. And before I go any further, I hope that Trisha Goddard gets to see this video, because her show disbanded a little after we went on the national TV network thing, and did a little show, and some may see that, or I don't know if this video is attached to that. Anyway, we had talked to some of the producers there at the time, and asked them would they do a follow-up someday. They said, yeah, we'd love to. Let's stay in touch. Yeah. And then when the program went to the wayside, I felt kind of sad. So Tricia, I hope you're watching. I hope you get to see this. And I am an old codger now. You told me, you asked me how old I was 10 years ago. I was 55, and I'm 65 now. And you said, "Oh, you're an old codger now."
I'm
with
26 now,
with your
36,
cool British accent. I love that.
Yeah,
but
awesome.
now I am an old codger. And, but here I am at 65. My son's 36. I got 4 grandkids. And, you know, life is good today. God is good all the time, and life is good. Life is good today in our family.
Yeah,
it's good to be here, and just getting caught up with you folks out there. Not that anybody's just beating down the internet, going, "I wonder what ever happened to that."
Some of you know, some of you that are friends. You know,
but,
some of you know, and
for those that don't, to just know that
things are good.
No matter what you're going through, there's you come out the other side of it, victorious and happy and loved and feel wanted, and that's all just part of being living in the green world. You know, God's all golden, the earth's all blue, and I lived in the blue so much, and I couldn't get golden because that's sinless. But you take the 2 colors together in the middle of the stage, and it's green. And I'm trying to live in the green world today.
Yeah, green is good.
And, green incorporates the world, which includes my family, and the golden part of it is the God being in our lives today.
Yeah.
So life is good.
Well, something I want to respond with, you know, a couple of things I heard you say, Dad, is, you know, about the kids. Just an update. If you can do the math right, I had 3, now I got 4. The kids' ages are 14, 13. I got a 10-year-old and a 7-year-old, and they're a handful, you know, but I love them to death. And yes, the newest baby does have a curved pinky toe as well. I think I just take that train on really strong. But the other thing was Dad was saying, you know, a firm believer in, you know, having God and family, really strong bonds or whatever. I just know a cord of 3 strands is harder to be broken. So even if you're not married, but just having a relationship with God, even as a strand of 2 is stronger than 1. So I definitely agree with that. And I guess the final thing I'll say with on that subject of faith and self-control, you know, the fruits of the Spirit, is I found this necklace. It's a dog tag. 1, I like because I was in the Army, but 2, I like it because it has the Serenity prayer on there. You know, and God grant me the serenity to accept the things that I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. You know, and that's absolutely very powerful. I wear this as a reminder because when we were talking about control, the reaction versus responding, I can't control me. I can't control him. I can't control anyone else. But what I can control is the way I respond to different things. And that, for me, the difference is taking that breath. And one thing I've instilled into my life here in the last, I'd say just a couple months, really. I've been saying it for years, but actually acting on it is to stop, breathe, and then pray. That has been very helpful and very powerful in my life and my relationships with other people, especially family members. I just got bite my tongue without biting it off, you know. But anyway, since my dad is a jokester here, you got any funny jokes before we get out of here? Every time we talk, he always has a joke. This is the jokester. So we got to end on a sense of humor here.
Okay, well, the piece of string walks into the bar. He really wants a beer, and he sits down. He said, "Bartender, bring me a beer." The bartender says, "Wait a minute, you're a piece of string. We don't serve string in here. Get out." So the string walks out of the bar, and he's pacing up and down the sidewalk. "Man, I really want a beer. I really want a beer." He goes, "I know. I'll disguise myself." So he ties himself up in a knot, and he frays the end of his string, and he walks back in the bar, plops down on the bar stool, and he says, "Bartender, let me get a beer." The bartender looked at him. He said, "Wait a minute." He said, "Aren't you that piece of string that was just in here?" He says, "No, I'm afraid not."
Afraid not.
Anyway, hey, this is our 10-year thing since we did the Tricia show, kind of a 10-year catch-up thing. And maybe in another 10 years, if I don't strangle this kid, and I'm still around, I hadn't died from
9 years.
obesity.
Maybe
we'll do another
20-year
follow-up, 20-year follow-up, or 10-year follow-up to this one, and let you know how things are going at that point in time. If God sees fit, we'll do just that. So
yeah, absolutely.
Good seeing you guys.
Absolutely. Thank y'all. Y'all take care. Have a good one. And how do we always finish?
Peace.